Welcome back. Right now, we are going to turn our attention to a conversation I had recently with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Neil Bradley, all about the labor workforce shortage. I'm sure you've noticed wherever you are, there is a huge shortage across the entire country. People need workers and they're just not there. What can you do about it? What do we need to know? Well, let's take a look.
American businesses of every size, across every industry, in every state are reporting unprecedented challenges of filling open jobs. There are now half as many available workers for every open job across the country as there have been on average over the past 20 years. Joining us to discuss the labor shortage problem is Neil Bradley, Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thanks so much, Neil, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Christine.
How bad is the worker shortage problem, and how is our local economy being impacted by this worker shortage?
Well, this problem is turning into a full-blown crisis. We just got the most recent data from the Department of Labor. 10.9 million open jobs across this country. That is a new record, an increase of 800,000 unfilled jobs in just 1 month. In Utah, we count about 84,000 open jobs. To put that in context, that's twice as many open jobs today as the average of the last 2 decades. So, we're talking to restaurant owners, eager, excited for the return of business post-pandemic. And what they're having to do is choose between lunch service and dinner service because they don't have the staff to do both. We talked to construction companies. They are turning down work that people want them to do because they don't have the skilled employees available to do that work. We have a national nursing shortage crisis. It's impacting our ability to fight COVID and, frankly, to care for our other healthcare needs. So wherever you look in Utah and across the nation, it's actually holding back our economy. We can't reach our full potential. We can't reach the economic growth that all of us want to see if we continue with this record-breaking worker shortage crisis.
And we have noticed it in our day-to-day lives, from restaurants suddenly having to close because they don't have enough workers or changing hours, and it's happening across all industries, as you mentioned. Why is this happening?
Well, there's not one single reason. If you go back pre-pandemic, we were having a worker shortage problem. The pandemic just made it a lot worse for a whole host of reasons. Of course, some people are reluctant to return to work because of fear of COVID. And that's why vaccines are so important and public health measures to make sure that we protect people. We know that before the pandemic, access to affordable childcare was a big issue for many working parents. A number of daycare centers have closed because of the pandemic, and those that remain open have fewer slots, making it even more problematic. We have to get those daycare centers reopened. For a lot of individuals, it's a skills gap. The skills that they had in their old job don't match the skills that are needed in the new job. We have to help people get those skills. And legal immigration factors here as well. We have always welcomed people into this country legally to both help create jobs and to fill unfilled jobs. That's been restricted in recent years and has completely come to a stop under the pandemic. We have to focus on getting legal immigration restarted, and we're going to have to do all of these things and probably a few others if we're going to make a dent in those 10.9 million open jobs.
You mentioned some ways to address the challenge. Anything else that needs to be done to help with this worker shortage?
Well, one area we would encourage people to focus on right now is job training programs. Congress has provided billions of dollars to states. We're encouraging governors in Utah and across the country to make sure that they use those resources for employer-led job training programs. We should be asking employers, what skills do you need? And then we should be working with community colleges and technical schools to make sure that they're helping people get those skills. The last thing we want to see is someone go into debt or spend down their savings for a job training program that doesn't actually end up in a job. And the best way to avoid that is these employer-led initiatives.
And how else is COVID, including the new variants, complicating hiring efforts and the return to the workplace, especially for parents dealing with uncertainty around school reopenings and childcare shortages?
Well, there's no question that COVID and now the Delta variant is making it much harder to fill these open jobs. For some individuals, it's a fear of contracting COVID. For schools, for parents, even if schools are reopened, if students are having to quarantine because of an exposure, it's really hard for the parent to return to work. So, beating COVID, And the key to beating COVID is getting people vaccinated. Getting people vaccinated and beating COVID is ultimately a big part of solving this worker shortage crisis, as well as doing those other common sense steps that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. And where can we get more information about everything we've talked about today?
I hope folks will go to uschamber.com. That's uschamber.com. If you're an employer, you can learn some of the tips for helping fill those open jobs that you have. But if you're just a concerned citizen, you can learn more about the depths of this crisis, what it means there in Salt Lake City and the surrounding area, and what it means to the nation.
Well, thank you so much, Neil Bradley, for your time today. Really appreciate this discussion about the worker shortage, what we can do, and insight into this issue. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me.